Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's, can you guess? Friday. That was so lame.
I love it.
And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to Friday, which is my second favorite F word.
What's the first?
The first is definitely food.
Oh. I went another way. It's fine. Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, let's jump into the stories while enjoying my morning cup of brew.
Oh, what are you going to enjoy this morning?
Some peach acai tea.
Oh, you're starting a little fruity. Sounds like you're giving your weekend a sweet start.
Yes. Well, that was really good.
Well, for any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below.
Food, huh?
Food. How dare you think otherwise? For our first story, am I the a-hole for not being able to give my daughter the birthday that she wants? My daughter is turning 15 in a few days. Money is a bit tight, so I told her we can't afford a birthday party this year. Instead, we can buy a cake, a gift, and go out for dinner. She threw a tantrum over not getting a birthday party, but finally got over it. She told me she wants a peanut butter chocolate cake, a tablet, and wants to go to an Indian restaurant. I told her she is being unreasonable. She knows her brother is allergic to peanut butter. I even offered to buy her a cupcake, but she insisted on having a cake, so I said fine. You are getting a chocolate cake then. We had another argument over the gifts because I can't really afford a tablet, so I asked her to choose something else, but she wouldn't choose, so I bought a new phone case for her. Then we had another argument. She knows neither me nor any of her siblings eat Indian food, so I told her we'll go to her favorite fast food instead. She threw another tantrum and called me an a-hole and said fine, have fun then, I'm not coming. She then called her dad and left with him. I've been trying to talk to her, but the only thing she says is that she's not coming with us and won't talk to me. Am I the a-hole?
Oh my goodness gracious. What have you brought for us on this splendiferous Friday? This is a terrible story.
Thank you.
Ew, I don't like this story. Okay, so for clarification, OP is the mom.
Yes.
Okay. And she's just trying to make this all work because right now, sounds like funds are tight.
Correct.
Girl is 15, so she has unrealistic expectations of everything around her, like most teenagers, girl
Yes.
or boy. That's just how it works. But they're just trying to make it work. 15-year-old wants to have a big party. Unfortunately, they can't. They let her know it's about the funds. So they proceed to give her a dinner, a gift, and a cake. You know what? Had I gotten those choices as a kid, I would have been okie doke. But everyone's different. So she proceeds to pick a cake that she knows one of her siblings is allergic to.
Correct.
A peanut butter and jelly.
It's a peanut butter and chocolate cake.
Peanut butter chocolate cake.
Correct. But her sibling's allergic to peanuts.
Okay. But it is also her birthday. You're allowed to pick the cake you want. You know, I understand that part of it. Although, again, it being someone being allergic to it in the house is kind of suspect. And I know at 15 you would know that about your siblings.
But it's still her birthday.
It's still her birthday. That's why
and she probably, this is probably a bigger treat because she doesn't get it.
Sure. So I do agree with that. It is her birthday. She can't have the cake she wants. That's kind of what we try to do for our kids, right? Whatever you'd like, you get. Then it gets to the gift. She knows that her parents don't have a lot of money right now. They can't give her a party. For the gift, though, she asks for a tablet. Well, unfortunately, they can't do that either because of, like we stated, funds. So she gives her a phone case. That is a far fall from a tablet. So I can see the disappointment with the child. And then she picks an Indian food place to eat at. And the mom says none of them eat Indian cuisine. Now, again, I guess it's not really weird because you should want to try different cuisines that you're not used to. Especially, it's your birthday. Like, try some stuff. So then they bring it back to something they probably can't afford. Her favorite fast food. But I gotta say, I don't think the parent is the a-hole in the situation. I think they were trying to get it to work.
Well, let me go ahead and give you Reddit's consensus, and then we'll delve into everything else.
Okay.
So Reddit's consensus says that she is the a-hole. And it's not that she is the a-hole for trying to make a situation work.
Okay.
But she is the a-hole for some of her choices in the choices that she gave her daughter, which is the cake. first and foremost, she asked for a peanut butter chocolate cake and then tried to say, well, for your cake, your brother can't have it. So we'll just give you a cupcake version of it and then get a cake the rest of us can have. It should have been the other way around. She should have gotten the cake.
Okay, I can see
Her brother should have gotten a cupcake.
Yeah.
Because it was her birthday, not their birthday. Now, the second, the tablet. Absolutely nobody on the forums was saying, get her that tablet.
Yeah.
Nobody on there was saying that. They said, your gift, you got the best that you could.
Yes.
You know, that really nobody could fault it with. However, the Indian cuisine, just because everybody doesn't find something that they enjoy there doesn't mean that there wasn't something that she could enjoy there. Yeah. Because clearly when it comes to the two things that she could eat, essentially, right? The cake and the Indian cuisine, her and her family don't see eye to eye on. So of course it would be rare air for her. I think one of the biggest downsides and one of the reasons why she got the rating is because she told her daughter, well, you can have a cake, you can have whatever favorite place you want, and you can have a gift.
And then she proceeded to change all of them.
Exactly. Yeah. Not only did you say that she couldn't have a party, but then on top of that, the three things that you gave her freedom to choose in, she truly didn't have any freedom to choose in. You were just deciding it. At that point, you should have just not even given the choice and just said, hey, I'm going to surprise you.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this party behind us. And let's go into our next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to return my friend's dog? My friend left Maryland for England and left his dog Venus to me. Originally, he left temporarily and asked me to take her in for a few months, but he called me up and told me he wasn't going to be able to bring her as he couldn't find a dog-friendly place and that I could keep her if I wanted. I told her I'd be glad to, and that was that. She's been with me for 2.5 years now, and she is so gentle and calm. She never barks and is the best hiking buddy ever, and my girlfriend adores her. My friend called me and asked for her back. They found a new place that allowed dogs and are finally settled enough to get her back and asked me to help ship her. I said he told me she was mine, and he said yes, and that was because his housing circumstances that he couldn't control and that his son really misses her. He offered to pay me $2,000 for her, but I don't want to give her, and told him so. He wasn't happy and hung up. Am I the a-hole?
Spasa me the bow. I can definitely understand the love of a good dog. We have 3 of them. We'll show you another one. Isla.
Yeah.
She's our oldest German Shepherd. So, unpacking time.
Mm-hmm.
OP is a good friend, it sounds. In a pinch, OP's friend makes a move across the pond. Has to leave the dog behind. And the dog is Venus?
Correct.
Cute name. And Venus apparently is one of the most amazing dogs ever.
We understand.
Yep. Great hiking buddy. All the things you want of a good dog. Doesn't bark. Great temperament, apparently. So it fits like a glove to a hand. Originally, there was an understanding between the two of them that this was a temporary thing. That when Venus was dropped off with OP, this would just be till they get settled in
for
England.
A few months.
A couple months pass. I think it was like 3, somewhere in there. They give a call to OP and they let them know, like, hey, by the way, because of our living arrangements, are you okay with keeping Venus? And that is the end of that conversation period. OP tells former owner that they are cool with it. Everything's kosher. We're going to keep her. That's the end of that conversation. That's the end. That's where I can't push past this anymore because there was an understanding that now that Venus's new owner is OP.
Correct.
At that point, friend no longer has any ownership over dog because OP now has taken the dog over. It's been 2.5 years.
Oh, yes. 2.5
No, buddy,
years.
that dog is no longer yours because of vet bills, feeding. I'm sure they never asked for a penny from you for that. I don't think they bring it up, but I doubt it. Again, it just sounds like a really cool situation that you lucked into a good dog. You're not the a-hole in this situation. Good on you for not going, well, yep, that was it. Here, give me that $2,000. Like, you had a bond with this dog, and no amount of money can replace a bond you make with, regardless of what animal, a bond. I think it's amazing when you can find anything in life that you love. So hold on to it. Good for you.
Well, all of Reddit also says that he's not the a-hole for this choice. In fact, there were some people that was saying that you should take the dog's feelings into consideration and that he might be missing their previous owners. And there's no doubts. I bet you any animal would miss their previous owners. However, to try and understand the inner workings of a dog's mind is very complex and It's hard to actually put inside of a thread. In the end, 2.5 years with this current owner is more than enough time to have that type of bond. Well, let's go ahead and leave this dog owner and his best friend to their relationship. And let's go into this next one. For our next story, am I the a-hole not splitting rent 50-50 with my fiancé? We live in a city where you need to have roommates if you don't make over $95,000 a year. Anyhow, my fiancé can fly off the handle pretty quickly.
What are you doing?
I'm trying not to laugh because your reaction was too funny.
Well, that was a bad statement. It
That's
flies off the handle very quickly. When is that good?
Not.
Okay, well, let's
Let
continue.
me continue. We had a roommate, not the best at all, but it's all we had. He made a mess of the kitchen every now and then and had smelly feet and would not Swiffer, stuff I can tolerate. Anyhow, my fiancé flew off the handle one night because the roommate was drunk and talked about spiritual stuff and kept trying to talk. My fiancé flipped out, told him to get the fuck out, and he could afford the place himself. And the roommate said to me, "I'm moving out. I'm sorry. I can't live with your fiancé. I have lived with so many different people. He's terrible." Now he expects me to pay 50% of rent. He makes 2 times as much as I do, and I have just started working again after being laid off for 1.5 to 2 months. I have savings, he doesn't. Rent is $2,800. I gave him $1,000 out of my savings earlier in April for May's rent and bills. He interpreted it as, "Oh, you didn't specify it was for rent," as he said he'd send it back to me. And I said, keep it, use it for rent, bills, etc. He bought a new compound bow, hundreds of dollars in oil paints and canvases, paid 2 times his truck payment, etc. Now, with May coming up, he is saying I am an a-hole for not giving him more money for rent and splitting it evenly, like an extra $1,400 for $2,400 total. I just started working 2 jobs 7 days a week, over 50 hours, and still won't see the same money he's bringing in every month. My argument? I'm not the reason the roommate left. You are, and you told the roommate you could afford it. Why do I have to split it evenly? I've posted about roommate wanted, sent them his phone number because he wanted to screen them, and he didn't respond to them apparently. Also, I sent $1,000 earlier, and because I didn't specify, he blew it on hobbies he wants. When I told him I'd love to do those too, but I'm focused on saving for a house and to be financially stable to have those hobbies in my future. His argument, I didn't specify what the $1,000 is for. He's screwed. Am I the a-hole?
Oh, wow. Well, this is the spassimate the ball is bad. Your boyfriend. These should be sending up a whole lot of red.
It's fiance.
Sorry. Oh, even worse. This should be like the bat signal to get the hell out. So he runs off your roommate. For starters, we'll start with that one. Even though he knows your situation, he touts that he can cover his side of it without any problem during the fight. She explains it. So roommate proceeds to move out. I don't see why, if you were the one that pushed out her roommate, because it sounds like this was a pre-existing situation before boyfriend moves in, maybe? Are we saying they all came in it together? Because there's a lot of things I'm missing from this.
I don't know if this was, I mean, it had to have been pre-existing before. I can't tell if it would be the fiance moved in.
That's the way I'm reading this, where she had a roommate, met boyfriend who became fiance moves in. He comes in and goes, "Get out. I could take over your rent." And he then proceeds to charge her more when he knows she's just coming out of being laid off. She's working 7 days a week, 50 hours. Plus is what she says. Why are you paying more to not be there when I'm certain that he's probably there a lot more often than her? 7 days a week is a lot. So I feel bad for her. It sounds like your fiance is super controlling, to the fact that when you try to make it easier, he was screening people for a roommate, a new one, and he's not even answering them. But then still's expecting you to pay more, even though he's not allowing for it to be easier on you. There's a lot of red here. I would be very scared about any future endeavors with this human. It doesn't sound like he has your best interests at heart. It sounds like you're just going to be a punching bag for his lifestyle. You say it. He spent $1,000 that you gave him like a child. It just showed up in his account so he could just do what he wanted with it, right? She gave you $1,000 because she loves you when she's working 7 days a week. Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe.
You infinite wiener jacket. What happened in your brain cells that was like, oh, $1,000. My fiance sent me. I'm going to go spend it on whatever. A hobby when you know she's struggling. Gosh, that's brainworms. I'm sorry for her. And then him doubling down and then expecting her to pay more. And then getting upset that she didn't specify what a random $1,000 was that he got sent.
That she told him to pay for utilities and rent.
I get out of the relationship. I know that we talk a lot about giving people chances and working through. That's not one of them. This is that situation we talk about where I can agree with people in comment sections going, look, that's not okay. You're definitely not the a-hole.
Well, let me go ahead and give you the consensus on Reddit. They say that she is not the a-hole. Clearly and resoundingly not the a-hole. And we have an update from her.
Oh.
So let me go ahead and jump right into that one.
Please be good.
We ended up having a conversation. He agreed he was in the wrong. He acknowledged my savings account is not for paying where he faulted. He said he was sorry that he expected me to use my future house savings because he used the $1,000 to buy different items. I also forgot to add in the original post that he took multiple days off work last month for personal days to be outside, which contributed to this. He told me he was financially fine. He is working on another job site on top of his current one in order to supplement his income. We had a long talk about discussing large purchases and prioritizing where money is needed/saved. He also acknowledged I had found 5+ choices of potential roommates and he turned them down, which added to the stress. I am going to be helping with groceries and we are working on his spending. For more info, he makes $90K and I make $30 to $35K a year. My savings is $20K and he has maybe $1K. I've worked in social work my entire life and it's taken a long time to get my savings to where it is. Communication is important in relationships. Also, we are moving this summer to my grandfather's house where he will have a job and I will be going to medical school and working part-time. Thankfully, we will only have to pay for electric, water, and heat. Thanks for all the responses.
Wow. I jumped the gun on leaving and it backfired on me. I would still be... Okay, I'll say it like this. It does sound like at least there's communication. He does see his faults to an extent.
My perspective on this relationship is that she's trying to make it work.
Sure.
And they're talking about it, which is a good sign. However, my one red flag in all of this is if you, as his fiancé, can say he can fly off the handle pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That is so many warning signs because you can have communication if he decides something in the heat of the moment, just like how he did, and puts you through more financial duress in the future when you've actually tied the knot and put the ring on. That is a whole different ballgame that you cannot walk away from.
I think that for me, I'm happy that they're talking and working on the communication part of it, but yeah, that's not a good thing when you can describe someone as being able to fly off the handle. I would be very suspect of things going forward and my safety in any situation with that, or financial decisions. If he's a bad spender, like, again, people change, but they gotta want it, and you can't want it more than they want it. That's a life lesson that people need to take with them is please don't get into this misunderstanding that people will just change for you. They gotta change for themselves first.
Correct. Well, let's go ahead and leave that relationship and see what's going on with his family and this next one. For our next story, am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's relationship because I wanted his girlfriend to be more involved with our family? I, 28 female, always had a great relationship with my brother, 38 male, and the rest of my family. When my son, now 5, was born, they supported me through a lot, especially since my baby's father abandoned us. The problem started when he met his girlfriend, 30s, in university. At the start, I was truly happy for him, especially since he talked to me about wanting to ask her out ever since he heard of her from her classmates. What I didn't like is that she didn't care much to keep contact with us. Even after being together for well over a year, she was always too busy to meet our family. He told me she was an amazing cook, was kind, brilliant, etc., and he wanted to marry her and travel with her back to her country once she finished her PhD. He'd always talk to us about how lucky he was to be dating her. She's a judge, and how her government was financing financing her. I'll admit, knowing a childless woman wasn't working and was paid more money than me, on top of having her rent and other things covered, stung a little, but it had nothing to do with my dislike for her. I wanted her to be more involved in our family, and there was always an excuse as to why she couldn't meet us for dinners, etc. She'd be studying, helping someone from abroad, which I don't really believe. What could she be doing for anyone being miles away? And on the rare occasions she was free, she was either traveling to see her family, hosting friends, or wanted to be alone. I didn't buy that she didn't have any time for us because she doesn't work and was always at home, but she stopped accepting my visits and refused anything to do with my son as well, which slowly distanced my brother. She wouldn't even babysit when my parents were out of town and I needed her to watch him so I could work. Personally, I don't think she's as kind as my brother thought. My parents were on my side. Brother wanted to be neutral, but asked us to not stress her out even more. A few days ago, me and my parents went to her house to talk things out with them both. We were upset, but tried our best to explain why her distance and refusal to help was unacceptable since she doesn't work and has free time. I told her I wish she'd be more caring, and she got increasingly angrier but said nothing. Then she turned to my brother and asked him if he agreed, but he said he didn't want to take sides. She said that this was another example of why she felt so resistant to the idea of getting into a relationship, that she couldn't take it anymore and felt better being alone, and then broke up with him. I was shocked. None of us expected this, and my brother immediately tried to backtrack, but she told all of us to leave her house immediately and to not go back. Now I'm feeling guilty, and my brother won't speak to us because I ruined his relationship and she's irreplaceable. She isn't bothering to listen to anyone in our family, and I'm afraid there's no way to fix this. Am I the a-hole or did she overreact? Edit. When I said I wanted her to be more involved and caring, I meant I wanted her to care enough to attend at least a few of the parties / dinners / other things we invited her to, because we wanted to get to know her and develop a relationship with her, especially since she had told my brother she had no plans of returning to / visiting the US once she got the degree, since she felt uncomfortable here. She was a possible future sister-in-law, and we'd lose her and our brother if they moved together, and she had no relationship with us to ever want to visit. I didn't want nor expected babysitting unless I had no one else to ask in an emergency like the one I mentioned. Then I asked her because I thought that since she was on paid leave from work, she could be flexible, but from what I read from all the responses, some who didn't need to be so mean, by the way, it seems I was wrong to assume that. Also, by not wanting anything to do with my son, I also meant that she gray rocked me when I tried to speak about him or show photos. Am I the a-hole?
I can't say this is a spice and meatball because I called the other ones that too. You did it.
Friday's full of them.
All right. Yeah, but again, another good choice. I guess I'll start with this. It sounds like the OP was afraid to lose her brother. That's what I heard from when she's like, well, they're going to jet off to whatever country the girl is from after she gets her education done. And she was pushing to have that relationship morph into something more. She really wanted her to be a sister-in-law, or a sister, really is what it sounds like she was pushing for. It sounds like she was forcing a lot of interaction that brother's fiance didn't want. And I think that that's a poor way to go about trying to make a relationship happen is by going, oh yeah, she seems very distant. Let's force it on you till you want us.
Be my sister.
Yeah, that's what I've got from OP. She got the parents involved. It sounds like they basically staged an intervention for her not loving them more.
I could see that.
It's so bad. It's so bad. OP, you're definitely the a-hole. I don't understand how you don't see it. And she's trying to justify it.
Oh, yes. With her extremely long post.
Yeah. I feel bad for your brother because it sounds like your family screwed up his relationship because he was trying his best, it sounds like, to stay out of it. But the problem is, and we've talked about this in other stories, you have your partner, you have your family. At the end of the day, what's important is trying to make it work. But if you truly love the person you're with and the person you lay in bed with at night, you've got to be on the same page together. They can't fight all the wars alone. And that's what it seemed like happened here with your brother's now ex-fiance is you guys accosted her to the point where she felt so uncomfortable that she would rather be done with all of it.
Well, it wasn't quite to fiance yet, but yes.
Close, I guess. I mean, you're right. Maybe I was jumping the gun, but I feel bad for your brother because you guys put him in that situation where he was just trying to make sure everyone was happy. And at the end of the day,
nobody was happy.
He learned a tough lesson that, yep, you cannot make everyone happy. And unfortunately, you guys made that choice for him because now she knows she can't trust him not to have her back with anything. So yeah, you're, I almost would say controlling and maybe more possessive of your brother than you know, because that's what the story sounds like. But yeah, OP, I definitely believe you're the a-hole and a little bit out of touch.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is she is the a-hole. In fact, you kind of get a glimpse of that in her edit, where a lot of people were very poignant with their words. Now, there was some questions regarding, I guess you could say, providing more information on what country the girlfriend is going to that would make them so afraid that she wouldn't be coming back. And now, our OP did provide some information regarding the girlfriend, saying that she's from a violent country, that the girlfriend couldn't get used to the United States because she's used to having walls and an electric fence, and that she would never let her brother leave the windows open or unlocked. But in my mind, not even I would do that last part, only because I'm from a major city where you just can't leave your windows open unattended. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, does it matter any of those details though? Like where she's from or what?
I think she was using it to maybe try and steer the vision that she has of the girlfriend.
Like she's cold and aloof, and this is why she's acting like this, but this is why I'm right.
Right.
Okay.
And that essentially the reason why they're afraid of him going to this other country is because of these reasons. Yeah.
Oh, my Lanta.
It's his choice. You can worry as family. You can reach out. That's fine. He'll always be her brother, regardless of whatever happens with his girlfriend.
But it was inconvenient for him to go there because she has this weird ownership of her brother.
Ownership and or support system she doesn't want to lose.
Yeah. I understand about being a caring sibling, but at what cost?
I know a lot of the commenters were saying the girlfriend's not your babysitter.
Nope.
And I can't believe how many times she brought up that apparently this girlfriend has so much time on her hands. And
how would you know that? You're making assumptions that the girlfriend is just sitting at home doing absolutely nothing with her time.
Regardless if that's the case, it's not her business.
Sure, I agree with that.
And if the girlfriend doesn't want to babysit, then she doesn't want to babysit.
It's not her
and
kid.
You need to make other accommodations. On top of that, she's working on her PhD. So for her to downplay what she does in her life, I think is uncalled for.
Maybe there was a little underhandy, maybe subconscious sabotage going on by the sister in this situation.
Possibly.
She was like taking her values and going, if you don't have my values, you can't be with my brother. Like that's kind of how it read off to me, was you're not adhering to what we deem is how you should act when you're with our family. Like if you do that to anyone, of course they're going to go, I don't want anything to do with this, and I don't want anything to do with you because you're not defending me or taking any real stance on any of this. And if this is what I have to look forward to in the future, I don't want it. So I can get her too. Sucks though, you did screw up something that it sounds like your brother loved her. And because of your selfishness, you screwed up a relationship that may or may not have been anything, but that should have been left up to him, not you and your family.
Yes. Well, let me go ahead and read you our poster's last edit.
Oh.
So she says, okay, I get it, people. I am the a-hole. You can stop with the insults. I'll wait and see if my brother will ever talk to me again and apologize to him. Some of you wanted to know where she's from. I'm not going to name the country for the sake of not revealing too much info and keeping privacy, but it's somewhere in the South. She's Latina.
At least OP got to see where she was wrong. It doesn't make me feel any less about the situation. It doesn't fix the relationship or what she did, but at least she sees that there's something wrong.
In the end, her learning her lesson came at the cost of her brother's happiness.
Yep, that's why it doesn't feel any different. Where she's like, okay, I get it. Well, I mean, that's great, but that doesn't fix what you did.
Well, let's go ahead and walk away from this interesting issue. And let's go on to our next one. For our next story, am I the a-hole for yelling at my ex and telling her to stop trying to make our kids perform for her after the death of her husband? My ex-wife and I share 2 children. Our daughter is 13 and our son is 11. She was remarried for 7 years and has 2 children with her late husband. He died a week ago. My kids were not close to the man. He was a hard ass, and the kids found him overly strict, and I agree, and they didn't like being around him. The relationship at best was strained, but they confided in me over the years that they hoped their mom would leave them. She loved the guy though, and when he died last week, she was a mess. Our kids were with me when it happened, and she wanted to see them, so I brought them over. They comforted their mom, and she told them repeatedly it was okay to cry. It was okay to miss him, that they were all going to miss him. The kids said nothing. She kept repeating it. I told her I thought the kids got it. When the kids saw their mom again, she was halfway through planning the funeral and asked if they would be able to do a reading or something for the funeral. The kids said they wouldn't be able to. She was with them a while and then said since they weren't crying much, maybe they could take a reading and see how they did on the day. Kids told me about it when I spoke to them, and they asked if I could talk to their mom. I told my ex not to force the reading. The funeral day came. I showed up for my kids. They were hanging back with me a lot, and they told me their mom kept watching them, which I witnessed myself. For the funeral, I sat behind them since she wouldn't let them sit with me. She told us that all of her husband's kids should be seated up front, and I didn't have the heart to tell her that they weren't his kids on the day of her husband's funeral when she was such a mess. So I bit my tongue and supported my kids. It was after the service when everything went down. The kids came to sit in my car for a while, and we were laughing about something. My ex came over and asked how they could be laughing when they had just buried their stepdad, and why did they show no grief at all over the loss of the man who was part of their lives for 7 years. She said it was almost like they were glad he was gone. She told them they should have been looking way more somber after he passed. She told them if they really didn't care, they clearly needed help because her husband loved them. I stepped in and told her to lay off the kids. They were kids. She told me to stop interfering in how she parents our kids. My daughter ended up getting mad at her mom and told her she wasn't sad he was gone. He was an ass, and she had always hoped she would leave him. She stormed off, and my son followed. X was going crazy, and I yelled and told her to cut it out and to stop trying to make our kids perform a grieving routine over her husband. I told her they were trying to support her, and she should be proud of them for that. She started yelling back at me about what an a-hole I am. So I walked away. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add more details on why my kids had issues with him. He spoke to them like they were soldiers and he was their commanding officer. That was how he spoke to his own kids too, barking orders at them. Also very strict on how they sat and stood. Posture was very tough on them regarding what extracurricular activities they wanted to do. He had his own ideas of what kids should do, and my son especially wasn't interested in the sport aspect, and that was not what my ex's late husband liked to hear. He also didn't believe kids should be helped with homework beyond kindergarten and did not like how the kids would react to seeing me during exchanges. He believed kids should act civilized at all times, and them taking off running and jumping into my arms was something he did not approve of and said it to them, although not in front of me after I told him it was what we do. Am I the a-hole?
Definitely not. It sounds like the kids we're trying to be kids. Like this is an easy story. I'm sorry for the passing of OP's ex's late husband. That sucks. I guess this tale is very different because you're getting to see, unfortunately, the grief of the ex-wife, right? Emotions are very high. So just because you love someone, because it sounds like she loved him a lot, does not mean everyone shared that same enthusiasm and love for your late husband. The kids show you that. And the fact that she pushed beyond the pale, because I'm willing to bet that she knew how her kids felt about their stepfather, and she refused to acknowledge that. I get, though, she's in the middle of grief. She was just at the funeral of burying her late husband. Again, I cannot imagine the amount of grief stemming through her at the moment of all of this going down. OP is a good dad. It sounds like he was trying to be a supportive person to his ex-wife in the time, right? He shows up with the kids. He knows how those kids feel about their stepfather. Even though he knows what that relationship was, he was still trying to be supportive. He allowed the kids to go up to sit with the mother while the ceremony was happening, even though he knew those aren't his kids. But there became a line in the sand once she comes over to the car. I guess they're laughing and sharing a joke afterwards. And then she tries to tell everyone how they should handle their grief. Everyone handles grief differently, man. I've seen the wildest things at funerals. You're not allowed to, as another human being, tell another human being how to act, especially when it comes to grief. That's subjective, and it's very unique to each and every person that is confronted with it in their lifetime. OP, you're definitely not the a-hole, in my opinion. You were trying to be supportive, and then you were trying to defend your kids.
Well, let me go ahead and give you Reddit's consensus on this. So they say the father is not the a-hole at all. In fact, many commenters are saying continue to speak up for your children because you are their voice in this situation. And he's actually commented back and said he's definitely trying his best for his kids. Now, there is one comment that I would go ahead and like to read, and I think it kind of shows us more. She's also extra upset because she knows her kids did not like that man. She knows they were unhappy around him, but she always was able to just play the denial game and tell herself, it's okay, they will get used to him and love him with time. Now that he's gone and her kids aren't mourning him, she has to come face to face with the fact that not only was he not good for their children, she made their lives so miserable by staying with him that they're actually relieved by his death, and that's her fault. She failed her kids so hard by banking on this man who is now gone, and she doesn't want to come face to face with all of that.
Yep, it's a good one.
Well, let's go on to our very last story of the day. And unfortunately, I can't really take us away from the family problems.
Friday has not been kind.
No. For our last story, am I the a-hole for telling my wife not to talk to my dad, but I will continue to? A month ago, my oldest turned 16. For his 16th birthday, the plan was to let him skip school, get to the DMV when it opens, take the driving test, go on a small road trip, be back around when school gets out, and then all go out for a family dinner. On the weekend would be his celebration with his friends. Skipping school for the DMV test was planned in advance, but the road trip was a surprise. A few days before the road trip, my wife asked me to take our 3-year-old with me that day. I said I wasn't taking a toddler to the DMV. That place is a cesspit. Also, the road trip is for additional driving practice before he's able to drive unsupervised. A toddler distracting him is not a good idea. My wife said she wanted the day to herself, and if I wasn't willing to take our toddler, the birthday stuff needs to be moved to the weekend so I can. I said I would take our toddler to work with me the next day, but our oldest's birthday is his day, so he's the priority. She got angry and said she's made 100 sacrifices for our kids, and saying she isn't a priority, not what I said, is disgusting. It was a big fight. My son's birthday, she texted me that I am an a-hole multiple times. At the dinner, she was in a bad mood. After everyone ate, my dad asked us all to go out to the parking lot. He handed the keys to his car to my son, saying he was getting a new one. He also said he would continue to pay the insurance for a year. My wife asked me if I knew about this, and I didn't. She didn't believe me. My wife has called and texted my dad multiple times, asking if he is going to do this for all of our kids, saying he shouldn't have done this without asking us first, and telling him if he can't do this for all of the kids, he needs to take the car back. Eventually, he told her to shut up and stop bothering him. My wife told me I need to stop talking to my dad. She said he used offensive language. He texted, "Stop bothering me, woman," which she says is sexist towards her, and I need to support her. I said she needs to stop talking to my dad, not me. I'll support her not talking to him. My wife said I am disrespecting her, that I won't listen when she says she needs help, and let my family treat her poorly. I think she is creating these situations herself. She looks for offense and then finds it. Am I the a-hole?
Move over, Newt. It's time to scoot.
Oh, it's this good.
Yeah. Okay. So this is super interesting that you would pick a story like this, because we always get on this how you should definitely support your significant other when it comes to certain family problems, right? And it's good to have their back because you guys have to be on the same page. This one, though, shows that no, absolutely not. I'm actually shocked at where the mother's coming at from all of this. The son's turning 16. It's a great occasion. We got a 16-year-old who's also now driving. So that's a great milestone. And it sounds like they had a good day planned, right? They were going to skip school, get some driving practice in, go on a road trip. That sounds fantastic. Be back for the family dinner. Cool, Dad. The issue is the mom on the son's birthday wants the dad to take the 3-year-old with them because, in her words, she wanted her day.
Correct.
But it was the son's 16th birthday that the dad had told you all his plans for. Why would you have a 3-year-old in the car when a 16-year-old's learning, when you don't have to make and exasperate that situation any worse?
And he was utilizing this road trip just to see how well he is at driving so that he can drive unsupervised.
Give him some more practice. But then she goes and says that you're being selfish and you're an a-hole because I want a day for me. He goes, all right, I'll take the baby the next day, right? Because that's what his compromise was. I'll take them on the next day. But that wasn't good enough. It needed to be on that day for some reason. So they have a huge fight over what it amounted to almost nothing when the dad was just trying to be a good dad and give his son a nice day on his birthday. How ridiculous of you as a parent that you go out of your way to make that worse for everyone. I understand being a parent and the kid and the 3-year-old and wanting a day off. There's a time and a place for everything. That ain't it. Unfortunately for you though, I'm guessing you and your wife, is this son their son?
Yes.
Wow.
So let me go ahead and just let all the listeners know as well. They have 6 children together.
Woo-wee.
So apparently after the 3rd, his wife wanted a girl. So they tried
They
a
kept
4th
trying.
time and they tried a 5th time
Yep.
and they tried a 6th time. And then he said no more. So he got a vasectomy.
Okay.
Now he is warned there is a very low probable chance that she still can potentially get pregnant. Of course it's more effective, but there's always that weird possibility with nature.
Well, I'm also bewildered by her reaction to the grandfather giving the son a car. He didn't owe you guys an explanation of what he was going to give to your son on his 16th birthday. He didn't have to run that through everyone before he gave his car to your son. And then to tell him either you give them all cars or you take that back. Lady, you're unhinged. I don't get it. He's right. She looks for these fights. She's creating them. You've got 6 kids together. You're deep in it. Like, I would wonder what other situations have cropped up in your guys' marriage where she's thinking that this is an acceptable way to treat people around her, demand, and then fight over not seeing reason of, hey, that's his 16th birthday on this one day. Dad's just trying to make a special memory with his son and then accost the grandfather for giving his grandson a gift. This one I can completely understand why you wouldn't have her back.
The thing is, I can understand if she wanted a girl, like if these were all boys. She actually does have one girl. The rest are boys. She's going to have those mother-daughter moments that it wouldn't be quite the same with like a daughter-father moment, right? The same way as there are mother-son moments, the same way that there are different father-son moments. So they have a lot of children, yes, but it's not that they're all boys and she's missing out on something special.
I don't know what she's trying to get from pulling this.
So let me go ahead.
He's definitely not the a-hole.
And the consensus is resoundingly, he's not the a-hole at all. But let me give you some insight that a lot of commenters have put inside, which is she sounds like a narcissist. If the center of attention isn't on her, she will work to make it on her and she will victimize herself so that she could make it a reality, and essentially creating this toxic and dramatic environment where a good heartfelt moment can never be heartfelt because it's not about her.
It's got to be about her. They're right.
I know that there were some comments, and they're awarded. Our listeners can go ahead and look at them, that gave their own examples of how a mother who's this narcissistic has twisted and ruined parts of their lives, special things in their life, because they wanted to be the center of attention and they needed it. That's really terrible. Quite sickening. I guess for me, we all have our family situations and not everything's perfect.
Nope.
That's just life. I mean, we learn to try and be the best human beings that we can and to go ahead and provide the best for our children. That's not always looked the same by everybody, but we can hope that person that's sitting next to you who is a mother tries to be the best mother. At least I try and look at the world that way. So when I read some of these stories from the commenters who provided their perspective on really what is a bad parent, it's quite sad. All I can do is tell all of them, there any one of them that listen, you should not have been treated that way. You shouldn't be the victim of somebody trying to be the center of attention and trying to overshadow you, especially not a parent. Because as a parent, our greatest achievement in life should be the fact that we even get to raise our children to be the best human beings possible.
The ultimate goal for parents is that
Happy,
kid
healthy,
healthy, and surpasses you in life. Like, that's the whole goal, is to raise them up, not tear away or take from. Or like this story, I'm sure you're right, there's probably some heinous things in that comment section.
If anything, throughout all the comments and the advice that they were trying to provide to the father, when it comes to narcissists, if your son is getting more privileges and more freedoms and independence, she will continue to try and exert as much control and to punish him in any way possible for things that he should be happy about. He should really, truly reflect on this relationship, because if this is how she's acting in just a snippet, and if he's seen this progressively throughout the relationship and across more than just this, one, it's good that he stood his ground, but you can't just stand your ground. You need to.
Well, this will be the start.
Yes.
Especially if that kid is if we're talking 6 kids, that's the eldest, 16. More kids are going to start getting their independence from her. She's going to keep pushing. It's going to get crazier. Like,
some parents can't strive away from, and I've heard this before, where it's almost like the puppy syndrome. When you have a child that's small, it's like they love you, right? You have that unconditional, innocent love. And some people, they just lavish it up. They love it so much. But then as they become their own person, and it's no longer just about mom or just about dad, they can't deal with it. And because they can't deal with it, they find some other vice, such as becoming narcissistic, because now it's no longer on them. Or they just keep creating having children because they want that feeling all over again.
Yeah, it resets it. And the thing is, everyone's getting older. All those things are going to compound for all the kids that are left. So I feel bad for the family. I hope that maybe they need to go get her some help. I hope that the OP saw some of this stuff and went, you know what, we gotta, there's only so much therapy can do for you. That's not a silver bullet. Like, when we throw out that occasionally and go, they might need therapy. Therapy is just the start. You've really got to work at it. And the fact
that they
that
have to want it.
They've got 6 kids. There is a lot built into that. Very scary situation. I'm happy that your dad tried to have a good moment with you. I'm sad that your mother had to make it about herself. Happy Fridays.
Happy Friday.
One of these days, we're going to leave on a happy note.
One of these days.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
As always, listeners, feel free to leave your opinions in the comments below. One last question before we get out of here. What are your weekend plans?
I know I see an escape room in our future real soon.
I guess we're going to do escape room.
Hurrah!
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.